My name is Joe Mora. I was born in East Harlem, Manhattan, New York. 1363 Fifth Avenue. I remember the Spanish Civil War as though it happened the other day. Even though I was like from 6.5 to almost 10 years old at the end of it, 1939, my whole childhood was all about the Civil War. My uncle, Manuel Magaña, a party member, who was the Spanish Harlem Communist Party, and who was also the president of Club Obrero Español on 102nd and Madison. Well, that was the Spanish Workers Club. It was a Communist Party organization that helped refugees, that disseminated, propaganda, that raised funds, et cetera, et cetera. That's what that Club Obrero was. I know. My uncle was he was our commissar. He taught us about politics. He taught us how to read and write. He taught us about all the political stuff. Sometimes I wasn't too glad about that, et cetera. I mean, that's another story. Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I was into the communist, socialist way of looking at the world to the exclusion of everything else. I used to listen to what was happening on the Eastern Front, and I listened to Stalin more than I did to Roosevelt. I mean, we were indoctrinated. Totally. I don't regret the fact that we all left a left-wing family. I think that's great. But during my childhood and my adolescence, I mean, I didn't know what else was going on in the world. It was all the one way, you know.
This is so interesting, Judge.
I mean, I can't, I can't get into too much detail about this because I don't know where this is going. I mean, I remember it like as though I was 15 years old. I was only 6, 7, 8.
What do you remember?
I remember, well, my uncle recruited my half-brother, number one. But his job in the Barrio at the time, as a member of the party in El Barrio, was as a recruiter for the party for La República. I remember standing in the hardware store, and my father said, "We have a letter from Rafael." He got a letter from El Frente. And he read the letter from my half-brother, who I had known for a few years when he came in 34, and then he left in 37. The business owners were mostly Spaniards. The population was mostly Puerto Rican, but the business owners were mostly Spaniards. There was Bustelo Coffee, Spaniard, Gallego. There was Valencia Bakery, Spaniards. There was Mediavilla, the big liquor store, 2 big liquor stores, big business in those days. That was after Prohibition. And all the businesses were Spaniards. But my father was the only one in the neighborhood who was a lefty store owner. Mediavilla, Bustelo, and Valencia. Well, Valencia I shouldn't say it was. But Bustelo was a pro-fascist, pro-Franco, 100%. But he always spoke about Franco and how the rights, Franco is going to straighten out, eliminate the Reds. The same old story. We listened to radio, shortwave radio. This crackly, you could barely hear it, you could barely understand it. La Voz de España Combatiente was the name of the program. And we used to listen to it, and they played the It like crackly, you know. La voz de España combatiente, reporte esta noche el frente de Aragón. You know, we used to listen to, holy shit, I was like 9 years old. But that's what we grew up with. But I remember the post, we had posters. I wish I had about a dozen of them now. Posters of las milicianas and the No Pasarán and calendars. We sold them in the store. We gave them out, whatever. There was a black Cuban. He used to come to the old man's store, who was a communist, who was a giant. Well, maybe it's because I was about 4.5 feet tall, but he was a big man. He could take a 10-penny nail and bend it in half, like bing. Now, I don't know if you know what a 10-penny nail is, but try doing it with an 8-penny nail. Anyway, he got killed. He said goodbye. A lot of people there said goodbye to us. They're saying we're shipping out. Salud, you know. Jesus Christ, I get it. They actually said later, you know. Anyway.
Shipping out to Spain.
Yeah.